Hey guys, my name is Liberty and I am here to chat about hiking the Pacific Crest Trail last year. So the Pacific Crest Trail is a 2,650 mile trail that goes from the Mexican-US border all the way up to the US and Canadian border. It's growing in popularity and people, for all different kinds of reasons, decide to get outside and live in the wilderness for anywhere from 3 to 6 months. January of 2021, a friend of mine texted me and another friend and said, hey, you should totally apply for these PCT permits. They're open and they're free, so just why not? And I thought, I don't think I'm gonna do this, but this could be fun. So I got the permit, and then I went through all of the pros and cons about why I should or shouldn't do it. And then I came to the conclusion that this would be crazy, so I'm not gonna hike. But the more I thought about it, the more I was interested in getting out there and challenging myself in mental and physical ways that were so different than I had challenged myself. So ultimately, my reason for hiking was to interrupt the status quo. That's how I put it. The very end of February was when I really decided I'm gonna go for this, and I put in my 2 weeks notice at work to say that I was quitting, which was a terrifying decision, but that was the moment where it really felt real to me. 2.5 weeks later, I was flying to San Diego, driving to the border to start walking north. So March 14 was my start date. About 5.5 months later, I stepped foot into Canada. A very different person. The trail experience opened my eyes to a lot. It taught me that there's a lot of good and kindness in the world, and that getting out of your comfort zone is a really growing experience. Mentally, I just learned how to keep going even when I had a rough day. The whole experience was an adventure from the moment I chose to do it, and I really didn't know how it was going to turn out, but I'm very happy I went for it, and it's taught me how to embrace adventure in other parts of my life.
I really loved hearing about Liberty's adventure and all the things that she went through on the Pacific Crest Trail. One of my favorite parts of the interview was getting to see all her gear, her tents, her sleeping bag, and all that. It was really cool, and it just made me want to go hiking, so yeah.
So this here is my sleeping pad. This one's nice because you don't have to blow it up. And so it's just convenient. I actually started with an inflatable pad that has more insulation, so it's better in colder weather. Given I started in March, it was actually really cold, even in the desert, so I had this false assumption that the desert would be hot and sandy, but I got snowed on day 2. Oh. So I learned that the hard way. That was very cold, but anyways, I bought this later on the trail when it was warmer.
I think my favorite thing I learned about the Pacific Crest Trail with talking with Liberty is the fact that the environment is so different than what I thought it was. Originally I was thinking it was probably just wilderness and in the trees and trails, but she actually had mentioned how she went through desert and even stopped by gas stations and stores and just was in civilization sometimes, or she'd have to hitchhike on highways. And yeah, I think that was something new I learned because I didn't think it was like that.
It's mostly a wilderness trail, so you're primarily hiking on hiking trails like you would hike on out here, you know? But every once in a while you will cross a road, and that's usually how you get to a resupply point or a place to shower or something like that.
I really enjoyed learning more about Liberty and getting to hear more about her experiences on the trail, and getting to hear a bit more about the trail name and how that's assigned or given to someone and what the meaning behind it is, and then also learning more about the different climates she went through. And I thought it was interesting to learn that it actually does snow in the desert, and she experienced that within her first week, And then also just hearing about all her adventures on the trail, I thought was very interesting.
A lot of people say that people are the best part of the trail experience. I started off solo, and the overarching experience was a solo adventure, but I started meeting some really good people about a week into the trail, and since then I never really felt like I was totally alone.
Like, what is like a trail name? Like, what does it like mean? Yeah.
Meet Swifty and Unicorn, the sleeping bag models.
It's just a nickname that people give each other once they learn a little bit about someone and what their character is like, or what random thing they're known for.
Yeah.
And you really just use that name. Like, you could feel like you're really good friends with someone and have no idea what their real name is.
Please don't die.
If like you were talking to someone that was like thinking about doing it, what advice would you give them, like if they're like planning on doing it?
I would say be really kind to yourself, especially at the beginning. If you get an injury or something, take the time to go easy on yourself so you can heal up and do bigger miles when you're stronger, or, you know, like rent a bunk bed if it's pouring and your gear is wet. Do what you can to actually boost your confidence and boost your capability to stay out there. There were times where I was really hard on myself for struggling in that learning curve at the beginning, but I think I would have benefited by just being kinder to myself then. If they're thinking about going for it, I would say do it. If you can structure your life to make it happen, I think it'll pay off in the long run. And yeah, hike your own hike. Everyone who's been out there will have gear that works for them, or advice that works for them, and listen to it, do your research, but also know what works for you and trust your gut. More than anything, trust your gut beforehand making the decision and during. I think that's a really important thing.